What if I told you my car was haunted?
I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, I bet you hear a lot of that.
Yeah.
Ever notice the fees on your phone bill start to add up? State fees, federal fees, administrative fees, streaming surcharge. It's not exactly what you signed up for, so maybe it's time for a switch. At Boost Mobile, your taxes and fees are included on all plans. That means the price they say is the price you pay. Plus, when you sign up now, get 2 lines with 3 gigs of 4G LTE per line for just $50, all on the fast and reliable Sprint nationwide network. With Metro PCS, you'll spend $5 more and only get 2 gigs. Sorry, Metro PCS. Switch happens. Boost makes it easy to switch, and switching makes it easy to save. Stop by a Boost Mobile store today. There you go. That's the opener right there, Adam. You feeling good about this?
I like this, yeah.
You ready to eat pizza in a car?
Let's do it, yeah.
It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
All right, and it is Car Con Carne, the world's only food podcast recorded in a car. That podcast is being recorded on Ogden, just west of Milwaukee. We are across the street from D'Agostino's, and I'm here with Adam Selzer. He is the man behind Mysterious Chicago. He is the man who just wrote what seems to be the definitive tome about serial killer H.H. Holmes.
I should think so, yeah.
It's exhaustive.
Modesty aside.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty dense. I mean, you covered a lot of ground, and we'll get into that. But as we're about to eat pizza, I thought we would throw this on the Facebook so the kids at home can enjoy watching us eat.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because nothing is sexier than watching men eat in a car.
No.
As you know. So here we go. I'm going live. Right? Yes.
There we go.
Here we go. We are live and... Hang on. There it is.
There we go.
Hey!
Hey, everybody.
Look at that. That's Adam Selzer.
Hey.
He's the man behind Mysterious Chicago. The guy who just wrote what may very well be the definitive tome about serial killer H.H. Holmes. Mm-hmm. We are outside D'Agostino's on Ogden Avenue. A classic. Look what we have here. Giant slices of pizza. I mean, these are huge.
Yeah.
It's like $4.50 for this. This is a full meal right here.
Right in my neighborhood.
Right in your neighborhood. So we're going to start with you. I'm going to make you eat and talk while on camera and microphone.
All right.
It feels good, doesn't
Try
it?
not to bump the microphone too much.
Worst things have happened here.
Okay.
That's good pizza, Adam Selzer of Mysterious Chicago.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. I guess let's start with the ghost tours.
Sure.
That's how I first became aware of you.
I've been doing ghost tours in Chicago for over 10 years now.
The question you always get asked, do you believe?
Depends on what counts as a ghost, I guess. I mean, I don't really think like a translucent version of you flies out of your nose the minute you die and then like starts rattling chains around.
Okay.
I've seen some pretty weird stuff. I just wouldn't necessarily swear in front of a panel of scientists that it was really a dead guy.
What weird things have you seen?
I've heard pianos play themselves. Not like a whole sonata, but, more than a piano ought to be able to play itself. I've seen people you thought you saw there for a second, and then all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. Stuff like that. Well, I tell you, man, the worst wasn't even on a tour. It was when I was out driving for Lyft one time. In the wintertime, it's kind of slow for tours.
We should have done this in your Lyft.
Yeah, probably so, yeah. Because, I always had like a secret dream of being a cab driver, My ultimate fantasy is...
Isn't that every boy's fantasy?
Oh, yeah, I always wanted to be a character in a Tom Waits song,
Saying, where to, Mac?
Pretty much.
Where to, Mac?
I've literally said, where to, Mac, many times. But there's one time, this woman got into my car in Rogers Park, and along with her got in this guy who looked like Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay, perfect.
And, I was like, where to, Mac? And, it comes up on their screen, so it doesn't really help. So it was like, drove into an address in Ravenswood. I was just talking, so you guys live in Ravenswood, you like it down there? We drove right by Rosehill Cemetery, so I was talking about that a little bit, because I do tours there, too. And then she got out of the car in Ravenswood, and nobody else did. And I was like, wasn't there some guy who looked like Pedro? And she was like, no, I wonder why you kept saying you guys.
Stop it.
Then I remembered we had gone by Rosehill Cemetery. So that's our newest ghost in Chicago now, is Rosehill Pedro. After that, I went home.
Get out. See, I am a hardcore skeptic. I love stories like that, but I have a hard time
Oh
buying it.
yeah, I'm sure it was just I thought the guy was getting in the car and he wasn't. Because he was sitting.
Was
he
it
would
late
have
at
been sitting
night? Were
behind
you,
me?
like,
It had been a long time. He would have been sitting behind me, so I wouldn't have been able to see him in the rearview mirror. So I can explain these things away pretty well.
Knowing that you do these ghost tours, do you think people just flat out fuck with you? Like they try to make you believe in things? Like
Sometimes,
to
yeah.
set you up?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. They're usually not very good at it though.
When did you start doing it? And I guess another question is why?
2005, there was an opening, so I took it.
Oh, so it was an established thing.
Yeah, it was an
like-
established company. I just got a job with the ghost tour company. But then I realized how many of the stories they had me telling had not been well researched over time.
That seems to be your thing.
That's kind of
like
been the thing,
You dig
yeah.
in and you...
Yeah, go find all the actual data, trace every story back to the source, try to find the stuff that people missed before. And with H.H. Holmes in particular, there was a lot of that.
So I should mention, if you're watching on Facebook Live, first of all, hang on, Dana Lynn, JVO dropping F-bombs makes my day. Fuck yeah. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I should mention, this is just a fraction of what you'll get on the podcast, on carconcarne.com. This whole long-form conversation, this quality time with Adam, is going to be stretched out and really wonderful listening, and that'll happen next week. But for now, you can watch us eat. And I should point out, you're a handsome dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you really you dressed for the...
I dressed in my expert costume.
You did. I'm dressed in a Red Sox hoodie, so I'm not a Red Sox hoodie.
Right.
That'd be something different. A red White Sox hoodie. All right, so I started doing the ghost tours. Were you into that sort of thing, or did taking the job kind of help you turn that corner?
I always liked that kind of stuff. I always had like all the books about the Loch Ness monster when I was a kid, and I grew up to be a lot more skeptical than I was when I was 10. I would believe in any monster in any lake you can think of. There was a pond near my house. If you told me there was a plesiosaur in there, I probably would have bought it.
Sure.
But then, it's kind of, I think, good that I got into all that stuff when I was 10. I kind of got it out of my system. I was all into conspiracy theories and stuff when I was 9. So by the time I was 18, I got that stuff out of my system. And, and now I'm just kind of stunned seeing adults get into some of this stuff.
What are some of the more interesting ghost stories? I mean, I don't need you to give up the tour
Right.
on the podcast, but what are some of those stories? We've all heard, I guess, the big ones.
Oh, sure.
What are some of the ones that you love telling, or that people think or say to you, I had no idea, I'd never heard that?
If people like F-bombs, I got just the story for you.
Yes.
Okay, so my first year that I was doing this stuff, they told me we were going to go out and do this ghost investigation up at this old funeral home that was now a tattoo parlor.
Okay.
And I said, well, what are the guys on first? First question is, are they on drugs? Like, oh, yeah, they're definitely on drugs, but it's going to be cool.
That aside.
Anyway. Yeah, that aside, it was cool. They had like a gravestone that they found in the attic was in the fireplace. And it was pretty cool.
Freaked me out.
Yeah, the first guy we talked to was like, oh, yeah, man, it was in the basement one time, and there was this ghost going like, woo.
Because that's what ghosts do.
Yeah, because, that's how they sound on Scooby-Doo anyway. But then the owner of the place was a cat called Tapeworm.
That was his
And
name, Tapeworm.
That's what he went by anyway.
Which, sort of related, but not really. There are times when I overindulge on food where I think, maybe a tapeworm would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the long term...
I think it might just be an urban legend that they used to sell tapeworm eggs as diet pills.
I've heard that urban
But
legend.
I was taught that in school.
All right, so tapeworm, the
Yeah,
tattoo guy.
Tapeworm. He told us about he'd seen the ghost of a guy in a powder blue suit that would watch him while he was tattooing, and a guy in a brown suit walking around now and then. And apparently, the family that owned the funeral home for decades before, because the tattoo parlor had been said it was haunted for years.
Okay.
But what really stood out to me was Tapeworm pointed up at the staircase, and usually I clean this story up a lot, so I'm glad to be able to do it like this today. He pointed up at this. You see them fucking stairs? Twice I've been walking the fuck down them fucking stairs, and I felt like they were trying to push me. Like, push me down the stairs, and that freaks me the fuck out, because everybody knows you can't fight back with these cats. So first time
And Tapeworm's a big dude?
He was a big dude, yeah. So he looked up and said, yeah, so first time it happened, I just went, listen, motherfucker, if I fucking die in this place, it is fucking on. 3 weeks later, Tapeworm died in the place.
Shut up!
Yeah.
In the place.
In the place, yeah.
What's the official...
Heart attack.
Wow.
At the age of 30, yeah, the age that I am now.
A really young age.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah, if there's ever been a ghost I felt like I really believed in, other than then it's Tapeworm, man. I'd go into that place after that, I feel like someone was like flicking my ear, pulling my hair.
It should be noted, since Adam decided to work blue today.
Yeah.
This podcast may not be appropriate for all audiences. I should have mentioned that earlier.
We're already talking about serial killers, right? So,
We're totally going to get into that. I had Herb, who's the owner of Liars Club, in this car. Maybe it was last year. And he swears, and he has stories, he swears that Liars Club is haunted. Did you ever hear that?
I used to take tour groups out there quite a bit for a while.
Okay, so what's that story?
Yeah. Well, there's not as many axe murders as they say there have been in the building. I know one of my tour partners at the time was saying there had been like 8 axe murders in the place or 5 axe murders in the place. There's been 1 axe murder in the place. That's pretty good. There's,
when was axe murdering a thing? Like,
yeah, and who even the place is on Fullerton Avenue? Why do you need an axe? It's not like there's a lot of forestry to chop down or anything, or a lot of rails to split.
Exactly.
But yeah, there was an axe murder there in the 80s, and also there was like a pop bottle bludgeoning in the 50s, I think. It's been a while since I told that story. I'd have to look it up. It
would never happen in the modern day because of the soda tax.
Right.
Who would actually waste the bottle,
right? Or if it was Iowa and you had the deposit or something like that. No, it was apparently a couple of guys got into an argument over a pair of pants, and these must have been really nice pants,
right? Some fine.
Yeah, one guy would kill for these pants, quite literally, and so yeah, some guy beat the hell out of him with a pop bottle and pushed him out the window or something. So there have been a couple of stories there. As far as the ghosts, I never saw anything. I don't think we ever had anything weird happen other than like just what you can sometimes see in the Liars Club. I mean, you walk into that place, it's like the cantina from Mos Eisley or something.
A little bit. You kind of see the ghosts of the 90s rock scene there, too.
That you do, yeah.
You don't need like a special piece of equipment to
Definitely
register that.
not.
Yeah. All right, so here's the deal. I'm going to let you eat off camera. As a courtesy. It's a courtesy to my guests. I let them finish their meal when other people aren't watching. This whole podcast will be available on carconcarne.com next week. Now, we just got into some of the ghost stuff. We're going to talk about grave robbing, and we're going to talk about, really, America's first true supervillain, H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
He was the Dr. Doom.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. So we're going to get into that on the podcast, because like I said, Adam wrote this incredible book about H.H. Holmes. We're going to talk serial killing and grave robbing, good, wholesome family fun. Carco and Carney next week.
Hey, Adam Selzer, how you doing?
There we go. Thank you for watching Facebook Live. To get back into it, we talked about the ghost tours. The grave robbing thing. Were there enough grave robberies in Chicago to warrant a tour?
Oh, yeah.
When was this a thing that people did?
Between about the 1850s and 1870s for the most part.
And what was the purpose? To find like things they were buried with?
The cadavers for the medical schools.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is true like Frankenstein
stuff? Oh, yeah. All the medical schools had figured out that you cannot train a new doctor without giving him dead bodies to practice on. But nobody donated their body to science in those days. So
right, they didn't have their driver's license with the box checked or whatever.
Right.
Wow, so actual medical students, or were there universities doing this?
A lot of times the colleges did get involved. A lot of times it was actually people from the college doing it, or sometimes they'd hire somebody out to do it.
Wow. Okay, so how do you research and get enough information together about that? Because it seems like something that was done very covert.
Unless they got caught, in which case it ended up in the newspapers. And then a lot of doctors would, years later, like in the 1890s, early 1900s, a lot of doctors would reminisce about it very freely, and a lot of times it made it into the newspapers.
And were there some graves that were easier to rob than others?
Yeah, the ones in the Potter's Field were generally the easiest. The place where they bury the unclean bodies in unmarked graves.
Well, let's talk about H.H. Holmes.
All right.
Plenty of people are familiar with The Devil in White City.
Yeah.
For those who aren't, who was H.H. Holmes?
H.H. Holmes is a guy that we like to advertise now as America's first known serial killer. What he's best known for is he had a building down on 63rd Street that people have started to call the Murder Castle. It was supposedly filled with hidden chambers, torture equipment, everything you could need to kill a person.
Right. And your book is?
My book is H.H. Holmes, The True History of the White City Devil.
All right, this is a thick book.
It is a thick book.
This is a very meticulously detailed book. How long did it take you to compile? I mean, I'm sure you had some stuff walking into the book writing process.
Oh, yeah. Most of the research was done by the time it got started. I've been doing research on the guy just for tours and writing articles and parts of other books for years and years, for about 10 years total. When I finally got the deal to do the book, they gave me 3 months.
Oh, my Lord.
So that's ridiculous. I got simultaneously with the mysterious Chicago book, too. So I went back on ADD medication for the first time since college.
Wait. So you had to do 2 books simultaneously?
Yeah.
I can almost understand that because I'm sure there are times you want to turn off one book and work on another.
Oh,
one.
yeah. You got to take a break from any project every now and then. You got to put it aside and try to come back to it. And normally I'd like to do that for a couple of months at a time.
I mean, it's not like painting a house. There's no quick way to writing.
Not really, no. The hard thing with Holmes, though, is just organizing and combing through all of the data, because there was...
Is there a lot of BS floating around out there?
There's a lot. Almost nothing going around about Holmes is particularly accurate, honestly.
So you went back... are you at libraries going through, microfiche? What are you
Quite
doing?
a lot, yeah. I mean,
For real?
a lot of... I spend so much time in the microfilm room. The Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Daily Inter-Ocean from Holmes's era have been digitized. Those I can get on the computer. But there's still the Chicago Record, the Chicago Daily News, the Chicago Times-Herald, the Chicago Mail, the Chicago Post, Chicago Journal. No, the Chicago Journal might have come later. A lot of other Chicago papers in any case.
Damn.
All to go through. And each paper kind of had their own personality, and you can see the different angles they each took in covering the paper. And covering the whole case. And that's just in Chicago. Also, it's only really useful for the parts of the story that take place in Chicago, like investigating the castle and stuff. He was on trial and in prison in Philadelphia, so I had to go get all the Philadelphia papers. There's the Times part of the Record and the Inquirer online. The Library of Congress, I got the Philadelphia Public Ledger, the Philadelphia Press, I think the Philadelphia Post, part of the North American. A lot of different Philadelphia papers. The Philadelphia papers would steal letters out of his prison cell and publish them. So there's a terrific letter from his wife that was really, really illuminating, and helped clarify a couple of details that we'd kind of guessed about her.
Well, and this kind of leads to a question I wanted to ask. After doing all this research, after really kind of working at getting in the head of this guy for as long as you have, What made him tick? What was he all about?
I've never been able to figure out what was going on in the guy's head. I feel like he liked to kind of manipulate people and toy with people.
Which is sociopathology. Pretty
much, yeah. Yeah, he was, he was a swindler first and foremost. And you had, I found in the legal archives here in Chicago, and the legal archives are really fun.
Where are those?
Those are in the Daily Center.
Okay.
Go up to the 11th floor, and what they got is microfilm reels at first, but they go through and it's got the names of the defendants and all the lawsuits. And the trick with Holmes is he usually puts somebody else's name on top, so you have to know all the names of the peripheral characters, and his mother-in-law came up a lot.
This is investigative journalism.
Yeah, pretty much. Because you find the number of the cases, then a week later they bring you a box of crumbling old Victorian paperwork, and some of his lawyers had just the worst handwriting ever. One of them, I love it when there's a case with Edward Maher, one of his lawyers. I love it when there's an Edward Maher case. That guy had such legible penmanship. Makes it so much easier for me.
As you're researching this stuff, do you wonder how much else is buried in legal vaults all across America? How many other stories?
Sure. I mean, there's probably stuff on him in the legal vault someplace down in Fort Worth where he was for a while. In fact, I'm sure there's quite a bit of stuff in Fort Worth that I didn't have time to get to. Possibly some in St. Louis as well.
So his reputation is well earned.
Up to a point. I mean, we say that he tortured and killed 200 people. My high estimate would be about a dozen.
Which still makes him a bad dude.
It's still pretty bad, yeah. It's plenty.
So the way you described the murder castle, it sounded like you were describing it with a trace of skepticism or cynicism.
Yeah, a lot of that came, we tend to blame sensationalized journalists for this thing. The police were just as to blame. We had this new police chief at the time of the Holmes case. The police officer was not a profession in those days. There was no academy. There was no civil service exam. The new police chief was a guy whose previous job had been selling animal feed. He had no police experience, no legal training, no forensics training, nothing in criminology. The new mayor just liked the cut of his jib, so he made him chief of police. And 3 months later, they start the investigation of the Holmes castle. They'd found out that Holmes had killed a couple of people elsewhere in the country. He also had this weird building on 63rd Street that was supposedly full of hidden rooms, because he'd been wallpapering over doors to hide stolen furniture. Mm-hmm. And, they did find there were a couple of, secret chambers in there, but it was, not so secret that everybody who worked there didn't know about them. Okay. A lot of the stuff we hear about, torture equipment, nobody said anything about that till, the 1940s.
So, yeah, because all the stories we hear, and it's probably all apocryphal, is he had different construction crews come in at different times, working different days, who are all independent of one another so that no one Knew all the secrets.
It's a little exact. He did do stuff like that. A lot of times, especially either the crew wouldn't get paid, or more likely the company that provided them wouldn't get paid. Mm-hmm. It's like most of the people who did the carpentry on the first 2 floors, we've got all the receipts. They're all in the legal archives. We know that the workers got paid. But the reason we know that is because he never paid the company. Like Aetna Iron and Steel never got their money. They paid all the workers got paid, but their bosses didn't.
So what have you learned about Chicago? Because as you're doing all this research into Holmes, you're getting a profile of the city.
At the time, yeah. There was kind of a Wild West aspect to the city in those days. That I think
which seems fair, because due south of here, it was the Wild West.
Right. Just, 50 years before that, west of here was the kind of wilderness we can barely even imagine anymore.
Right. And that period of Chicago I find fascinating. I mean, the Larson book had a lot to do with that, but I read books like Karen Abbott's Sin in the Second City, like how prostitution, like the alderman and mayor would just be walking in and out of brothals.
Oh yeah,
on the south side of Chicago.
right in the fancy districts too. You couldn't pee out the window of a brothel without hitting a millionaire.
So now that you are an expert on H.H. Holmes, the first was he? I mean, you also said that with a little bit of.
Oh, he wasn't even the first one in Chicago.
Okay.
We had Thomas Neal Cream was operating in Chicago about for a couple of years before Holmes even got to town. Not too far from here either.
All right, so the book is out. Mysterious Chicago is the site.
Yep.
What else should we know? Where should we find you? You're on Facebook.
Yeah, you can try Mysterious Chicago will link you to everything. If you just go to adamchicago.com, that'll link you to most of my stuff. Everything other than like the band.
The band?
Yeah. Yeah, they got a band called 82nd Street. We play occasionally. We got a new record coming out in November called Dinner on a Crime Spree.
What kind of music?
It's, the new album is pretty shamelessly Warren Zevon influenced.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Who was born in Chicago?
Was he?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
See, I got one on you.
Oh, yeah, you did. Well, he mentions the Clark Theater in one of his songs, which was a 23-hour-a-day theater on Clark Street.
Was that like Grindhouse?
They would do like a different double feature every night, and it was usually something random like Dracula on the double bill with some foreign film from Iceland.
I do want to say before we leave, the social media message of the week, courtesy of Boost Mobile, it comes from Carl Meyer. Last week's show was with Dennis from 88 Fingers Louie, lead singer of 88 Fingers Louie, and I mentioned online that after recording the show, I took Dennis home. I dropped him off. That sounds weird. I dropped him off at his place. On our way there, going up, it was Fullerton maybe, we happened to drive by just as the police discovered a body. Welcome to Chicago. So Carl Meyer online said, you should have hid the body better, pretty much no body, no crime. I expect better, JVO. Focus on BTD, bleach, tarp, duct tape. That really ties into serial killing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got to bleach that stuff.
I would think. I wouldn't know, actually.
No.
Quicklime doesn't work the way people think it does in mystery novels.
No, it doesn't. I find you fascinating. I find your knowledge and your passion super interesting. Thank you so much for doing this podcast.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for dinner.